Don't have like the slightest instinct in creating a universe. The slightest idea of how to create man, really. How to take a few chemicals and have this complex universe called man. So, what is wrong? Where does the Torah say this or that? I collected the dust I took from a rib. It's very, very open to what does it really mean. Now, the Chafetz Chaim said we don't know. But is man being threatened? Let's say, and I'll tell you why I think Schroeder has some evidence in his case. And he believes man came from, ape. Because look at the neshama. Yes, he does.
Schroeder?
Gerald Schroeder believes man came. Now, the difference between a monkey and an ape is an ape doesn't have a tail. I'm sure you know that. That man came, I don't want to say chimpanzee, but I'm going to say ape. Because that's a very evolutionary, hardcore scientific belief, right? We believe God created man. Now, we also know he created apes, but he created man specially and uniquely. But let me say one thing about the evolution of the soul. People like Reb Moshe Feinstein, I was told yesterday, in fact, at Young Israel, he said he had 7 incarnations. He even remembers when he was in the generation of Korach in the desert. Reb Moshe Feinstein said this. He remembers 7 of his incarnations. That means the soul goes through refinement. So the soul goes through an evolution. And there, according to many ideas, there may be many, many incarnations for some human beings who really struggle. And during that whole time, they become refined, meaning from a gross spiritual object, gross hands, gross sensitivity, whatever spiritual limbs they are more animalistic than they should be to be a man. So the soul evolves from being unrefined, which means materialistic, which means animalistic. So the soul evolves from that to be a refined angel. That's its natural course of spiritual evolution. So what if the body accompanied it in that refinement? When the soul was very crude, it emanated itself and materialized itself as an ape because the soul was very crude. And it wasn't capable of spiritual thinking, philosophy, culture, art, music, etc. It was crude, crude, crude. And the body that became the outer garment was crude to reflect the crude soul. Then millions of years, or seriously, according to this theory, millions of years went by, and the soul kept coming back, and this soul kept being refined, and the emanation of the soul, its garment, the body, kept taking on a refinement. When it reached a certain peak, where the soul was now capable of spirituality and higher sensitivity, and the body matched it because it's just the covering of the soul. It's like plastic on a mold. So the body reflected the evolutionary evolvement of the soul, and it too was man. At this point, Adam was created a unique being, but what was his leading up to? You say it had to be from nothing. Someone else says it had to be like this. Let's both agree that what the end product was the master of this planet and the focus of creation. Do we have a right, or do we really know? Can we swear in a court of law this is the divine process and it was right? We're like monkeys. I hate to say it, or ants. God is this infinite wisdom, more than wisdom, higher than logic, beyond thought. So we're going to say, it seems right to me you did it this way, but you didn't really say how you did it, and I'm going to assume it. Now you say it's Autumn's unique and special, and the tradition is filled with that. But really, does he say I took the aorta and the trachea and the esophagus and all these different aspects, and I put them together like this? He says he took dust from the four corners. Anyway, how did he make Eve? He took from his rib. Okay, that can be taken very literally, but the Chafetz Chaim says it's sealed. And maybe early ancestry had division of one-celled beings. Because that's really, if you look at science, there would have been one-celled creatures in the sea, and those would have somehow split into two cells, and that would have been the beginning of reproduction, right? Is that called osmosis or something?
Why would there be any cells in the sea?
Because you have to start somewhere, and the simplest form of organic life is a single cell.
But where did the single cell come from?
Okay, you know what? I'm not arguing about intelligence, and maybe God used random selection as part of his intelligent design. Maybe God said, you know what? Random selection is going to be like a perfect way to run this world and keep things going. Why are we presupposing we know which tool he's using? Because we're intelligent. He's beyond intelligence. So all I'm saying is that if the soul can evolve and refine, why can't the body, which is merely the garment, reflect the soul? And that would be truly a dual evolutionary process called refinement, spiritually and physically. Do you see what I mean? And why is that anti-God or anti-intelligence? It just means, well, I think it's better that God started anew and got a new creation factory and a new table and new tools and made man this way. We're so beyond creating man in a universe that our values are really of very little importance. And that's why when Copernicus and Galileo said that the Earth is the middle of the solar system, everyone was so threatened. Because man was not going to be the sole focus of divinity. And that's what we may have in creation, that man can just not accept being sort of a peg in a very complicated scheme. And that's the end.